think my hat's about to blow off. This is ridiculous. Join us as we head to Cowes on the Isle of Wight, a typical, beautiful coastal town in the UK. And we're going to have a typical day here, and you're also going to do some real English listening as I teach you some vocabulary. It's a new format, so let us know in the comments what you think. So a lot of people ask me, what are the beaches like in the UK? And I say we're really lucky on the Isle of Wight, we're really blessed because we have a lot of sandy beaches. This one is not one of them. So you can see there are a lot of stones. It's what we would call a stony beach or a pebbly beach. Pebbles are those small stones. So this right here is what we would call a pebble. So there are a lot of people out there today on the Solent. That's the name of this stretch of water here. And it separates the Isle of Wight, where we live, from the mainland. The mainland is what we call the main island of the UK. So that's where all your cities are, like just over there is Southampton, a bit further northeast is London, and so on, so on. But we're on an island, and there is no fixed link. When I was a kid, I used to love skimming stones. I say when I was a kid, I still love it. You've got to find a nice flat stone like this, and then you take your stone, and hopefully, yeah, that was rubbish. I should edit that out. I should cut that. That was terrible, but you hope you get a number of bounces. When I was a kid, I used to imagine that you could skim a stone all the way to the mainland. These days, I'm lucky if there's more than one bounce. That was terrible. So we're just having a walk along the seafront now. Absolutely beautiful, picturesque, although it is really windy. In fact, it's really strong wind. I'd say it's blustery today. God, blimey, this was a bad idea. And buy some ice creams right there. We're just having a little walk along the seafront. It's really relaxing. And you can smell, it's got that smell of the sea. One thing I love about where we live is that you can see basically there are trees and parks right up to the seafront. So one thing that my wife thinks is really different is in Brazil, you see a lot of people selling things at the beach. And it's really regulated in the UK. There aren't any people here really selling anything. If there are, like there's an ice cream kiosk at the back there, they're going to be either fixed buildings or they will have a permit. So there aren't really people walking up and down the beaches selling things. Not on the Isle of Wight anyway. So it's really common for people to bring their own things, like a picnic, to enjoy time at the beach. Maybe also bring your bucket and spade. Not that you could really here because there's no sand, so there's no point. But on a sandy beach, you could.
No.
You can actually hire scooters over there as well if you want. So I hold on to my hat. Yeah. Boost. This video will go viral as the hat flies off. So at the moment, it's quite a high tide. The tide is the level of the water, and it changes through the day. You can have high tide and low tide. At the moment, the water is quite high. It's quite close to these sea defences here. And your Cowes, especially in the winter, it tends to be subject to flooding quite often. You see videos of the main sort of public area flooded. You'll see over there that the ferry is coming out. You can actually commute or travel from the Isle of Wight. You could commute for work or just travel, have a day out to the mainland, to Southampton, and you could go via ferry. This one is a passenger ferry. In other words, it doesn't take cars, but there is a bigger ferry from another town called East Cowes. So in Cowes there are quite a few sailing clubs, and basically this is one right behind me, and they are membership clubs where people who own boats or regularly go sailing, they own yachts, they join and they have an annual membership. This is the Royal Yacht Squadron. Some people decorate like post boxes, so you can see on top somebody's put a knitted, it's like a hat for the post box, and they've put this knitted yachts. Go for it. No, go for it, go for it. I'm just filming swans. Who doesn't love a swan? A couple of swans just enjoying their life in the sea. So swans are actually the property of the monarchy. In other words, they're the property of the king. And it is illegal to kill a swan. So they are protected by the monarchy. But all swans belong to the king. That's why they probably take a bath in the sea, because they don't care. So there's quite a strong yachting culture in Cowes. A lot of people own yachts or they go sailing. There's a huge connection to sailing for pleasure. This isn't really what we would call a fishing village. So there's no real kind of fishing activity and there's no history really of fishing. It's more connected with pleasure. Cowes has always been a bit more affluent.
Attention Brazilians, is not yacht.
Yes.
Yacht.
It is not yacht, it's yacht. The pronunciation is far simpler than it looks. Yacht. 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 Yeah, should spell it like Y-O-T, my wife says. There she is. Grumpy at the word yacht. Now we're going to head to the central area where you can find some shops. I love those shots in videos where people are looking around. Thank you. I love it. I love it when they're in these videos pretending they're not filming themselves or they're not aware they're being filmed. Like, today's really hot in the UK. We're actually in the middle of a heat wave and today is absolutely scorching. And every now and then there's this kind of really welcome breeze, this gentle wind that cools you down for a second. And then it goes and it feels hot again. I'm sweating buckets. I'm that hot. One thing I love about Cowes, and in fact the Isle of Wight in general, is that there are a lot of independent shops. In other words, shops owned by a person or a small company, rather than these kind of chains. Of course, there are some chains here. That, there's like Sainsbury's local in Cowes, Poundland, but in general, there are a lot of kind of independent antique shops, independent coffee shops, restaurants, and so on, including an independent florist. Florist, that's where you can buy your flowers. This is what the summer in the UK looks like. You can also notice right above me, there's some, you can also notice right above me, there's bunting right up there. An artisan bakery, an independent bakery. We have a strong dog culture. I love signs like this. Dogs welcome, humans tolerated, or people tolerated. Cowes has got quite a few antique shops, I guess, because there's maybe more money here and also a bit of tourism here. There's something in the summer called Cowes Week, where a lot of people who are interested in yachting come to the Isle of Wight. So right here is the terminal, the Red Jet. The Red Jet is basically a name for the ferry, the passenger ferry across to Southampton. This is also where the bus stops, or it did. I don't know if the bus still stops here. I can't see a bus stop anywhere. Oh yeah, it says bus lane. So they must be able to stop here. And that drops people off at the terminal there so they can catch their ferry, either for work or for pleasure, across to the mainland. Here we have a harbour with lots of yachts. You can see from the flags that the wind is quite strong here. I mean, it's not like a gale, but it's really blustery. It's quite, I'm a little bit worried about my hat. Over the other side of the water, you can see the car ferry, which is if you've got a car and you're going to drive onto the mainland, you would catch the ferry from over there. I'll show you. So Luciana has just kind of left me to it now. She's gone far away, wandering up there, up this kind of side road. I don't often wear a cap, but I have to at the moment because it's so hot on the top of my head. So hot. So hopefully you recognise me. Hopefully you recognise me as I walk past some bins right there. There's still quite a few pubs in Cowes, so a lot of people may come here sort of for a day out, having a beer. There's a pub here called the Pier View, and there are a few more down this way as well, and a few more up that way. Also a lot of restaurants, which is quite common in areas where there's quite a bit of tourism. And like I say, especially in August, there's a lot of tourism in Cowes. A lot of people come from far and wide. They come from all over the world to enjoy yachts and yachting. It also tends to fall on the same week. Cowes Week tends to fall on the same week as my birthday. So as a kid, I think my parents would take me to Cowes Week to enjoy things like the Red Arrows, which is a display team of planes. They would take me to see the Red Arrows and fireworks as kind of a birthday party. I think as a kid, I used to think that the Red Arrows were doing it specifically for my birthday. They weren't. There are also a few charity shops in the UK where basically this is a kind of shop where people donate things like books and games and clothes. They donate them to charity, and then the charity shop will sell them, and the money they make, the profit they make, will go to the charity. My wife's just seen a Terry Pratchett book in the charity shop, but I've already got it, but I'm a massive Terry Pratchett fan. You can let me know who is your favourite author. I think mine is probably Terry Pratchett. I love him. He's got a brilliant sense of humour, him and Douglas Adams. You can also see a chemist over here. So there's charity shops, coffee shops, restaurants, some clothes shops, a lot of shops that are designed to make the most of tourism. We might call a place like this a tourist trap because it effectively kind of is designed to contain tourists and get all their money. But we're walking down this area now, and this is a pedestrianised area, which basically means cars don't normally come down here. Sometimes in pedestrianised areas, people can make deliveries, like vans can make deliveries, or at certain times, but here, this is pedestrianised, which means that my wife, who is currently wandering aimlessly from one side of the road to another, is pretty safe here. You also see quite a few art shops. These always terrify me on the grounds that my wife seems to always fall in love with a picture that she sees and then tells me the price. And I like a bargain. And quite often these places are quite pricey. So we're getting to the end of the main shopping area in Cowes. There are a few things there, like there's another pub behind me called the Painter's Arms. Wouldn't be the UK without a fish and chip shop, would it? My wife's just seen a shop that's selling things. This could be an expensive trip, an expensive video. So this building right behind me, there's a lot of history here, but sadly at the moment, this building, the people who ran this building, the business here, they sadly had to cease trading because of the current economic climate. They were actually running a restaurant here, and sadly this is what this is all here for. They're actually selling what's left of stock before they shut the doors permanently. The building itself, there's a lot of history here. This actually used to be a shoe shop, and if you go in, you can still see the glass. Victorians love glass and high ceilings and these kind of dark green tiles. You can actually still see glass that says fitting room, which is where, you know, people would have had their shoes fitted. My wife is looking at some of the, looks like we're going to buy something. Another charity shop. Another one right here. Who's found more things? Can honestly find something for everyone. An Elvis costume.
I'm not joking.
You getting that? Yeah. I don't even know what that is.
It's a sleeping head.
It's a sleeping what? I don't know what it is, but you can a sleeping head.
That is over £100.
My wife apparently has found a bargain in the charity shop. So my wife bought this in a charity shop, and that charity shop in particular, I've asked them if I can film one day in there to show you what a charity shop is and what you can find in there. But my wife found this, which is something for the baby.
It's a nest.
A nest? What are we having, a bird or a child? So a baby's nest. So is that for them to sleep on, or?
Yeah, because they get a bit more cozy when they are in the crib.
And apparently it was an absolute bargain. How much are they online?
Yeah, when I looked, it was 125.
125?
The same brand, and we found it for £5.
£5? So we've reached the end of the pedestrian zone. So there's a no entry sign here, which means that cars can't enter the pedestrianised zone. We've reached the end of the main shopping area in Cowes. We've reached the end of that, so we're going to walk a bit further down. We're going to walk a bit further down that way to show you the chain ferry, or the floating bridge. Just seen an antique shop down there that my wife is going to love, I can tell. Do you want to have a look in the antique shop?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it! Like we're vlogging YouTubers going shopping, looking for a bargain. Let's find a bargain. Okay, so I've just seen this is closed for lunch. My wife is now excited about buying some more furniture. I don't know where we're going to put it. We're probably going to end up with a shop at this rate if we keep buying furniture. People are sort of sauntering down, walking very gently down into the main area. But it's good because we're getting our steps in. Not that you really need to in your condition, but we're getting our steps in, which is the most middle-aged thing I've said in a long time. Getting our steps in, getting the, try and get 10,000 steps in a day. You can see we are here. There is the floating bridge here. You can see the East Cowes ferry here. That's the car ferry there. And then this is where we've walked along Birmingham Road, up Shooters Hill. We came up Shooters Hill, along the High Street, and all along there you can see the Royal Yacht Squadron, which is the club, and we're parked somewhere around there. So we've walked quite a way, all the way down the seafront to here, and we're going to walk now and show you the floating bridge. You can also see here, there's an old church here for sale. Some people buy churches, they buy old churches to either renovate, they often turn them into flats or houses. And talking about renovation, I think this right behind me here, this actually used to be the old police station. This at one point was a police station, and now looks like something connected with yachting. In fact, just above there you can see it says County Police with 1900, which means that either this building was built during the last year of Queen Victoria's reign, or that's certainly when it opened as a police station. It's really common to see in the UK, rather than knock down old buildings, we try to preserve them, but we change their purpose, we repurpose them and maybe change them into accommodation. And it looks like the police station has relocated here. So possibly what happened is they decided to sell the old building to raise funds, and they've moved here to a smaller building. So my wife's excited. We've just found a Thai restaurant right behind us here. Love Thai food, particularly there's green curry, but I particularly love red curry and Thai red curry. It's a bit hot for one of those today, to be honest. So you can see the prices of the floating bridge. It's to go from Cowes, which some people used to refer to as West Cowes. Most people just say Cowes, to East Cowes. So you have to go across a stretch of water on what we call the floating bridge, which is effectively a type of ferry that runs on chains. It's quite unique. So you can see here, this is called the floating bridge. And what it is, in effect, is a ferry that runs along these huge chains right here. And it's a very, very short journey. And just over there, you can see the car ferry. So that's the place where you get your cars. You can see a lot of cars waiting, cars and lorries, they're waiting. Lorry is the British word for a truck. You can see a lot of lorries waiting over there, a lot of cars, and they're going to go onto the car ferry just behind this building here. The car ferry is right there, and it's loading at the moment. There are cars driving onto it right there. You can always hear those seagulls. I always say, "What are you laughing at?" They all sound like they're laughing. But it is really sad to see these sort of buildings now being out of use, boarded up, these boards across the windows. Not entirely sure what people would do with these sort of buildings, especially commercially. But I think these days they're more likely to be converted into houses or flats so that people can live there, converted into accommodation. My wife at the moment is on the other side of the road walking in the shade. I don't blame her at all because it is blisteringly hot. Now, if you're wondering about the difference between shade and shadow, shade is the general area away from direct sunlight, which is where she's walking right now. A shadow, this is my shadow here. So a shadow is created when an object, such as a person or a building, blocks the light. So you have a light source, the object like a person's body, and then the shadow is created so you can actually see the outline of the person or a building. That's what we call a shadow. But shade is a general term to mean out of direct sunlight. She's walking in the shade right now. You can see her. You can see here there's a sign saying B&B, which stands for bed and breakfast. So effectively you can, book a room for the night and then you'll have your breakfast in the morning. It's called bed and breakfast. They're often cheaper than a hotel. My wife's getting hungry. I think it's time to go somewhere to eat. And when my wife is hungry, she often gets angry. And combine those two words, we have a word, an informal word, hangry, which means angry because they're hungry. How often do you get hangry?
Very often.
Very often. I think my wife is ready for lunch, so we're going to pop here. That could be a video for another day. Hey guys, so today is another day and we completely forgot to record the last few seconds of the video to say goodbye. So here we are. Because obviously we were both really hungry, but Luciana was exceptionally hungry.
Yes, I was.
And we went for lunch, and then we completely forgot. We recorded about 4 intros. But I want to say thank you very much for watching our vlog. You can download a free PDF which contains all of the advanced vocabulary from this lesson. And in our next lesson, you can see a whole lesson about British informal expressions, where I do, well, what do we do?
You test me. And that goes very wrong.
No. So thank you very much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.
See you.
Bye.